Second, I'd like to go over a few Zoom controls for folks who may be new to these meetings. If we can go forward a slide, please. If you have technical questions about using Zoom, in the chat, you should be able to see one of the hosts is tech support. Feel free to send your messages to tech support and they'll try to help you with any functionalities of Zoom. Second, we have multiple different interpreters with us this evening. Most importantly, we have Spanish language, and I want to invite one of the interpreters to explain how to join the Spanish language room this evening. Sylvia or Juliana, who's going to explain how to join the meeting, the interpretation room? We cannot hear you. Can I get a nod? Stephen, are you hearing anybody right now? Okay. Everybody should see a button on the bottom of their screen that now says interpretation. There is two different rooms for audio in this Zoom feature. One is in English and one is in Spanish. What I'd like to ask you to do is if everybody could click that button, it looks like the world, and click the English language if that's the language you like. If you prefer the Spanish language, click the Spanish language and you should be able to hear our Spanish interpretation. I'm being told that interpretation is now live in that room, so please go to the Spanish room if you need Spanish. Okay, next, if we can go to the next slide, please. We have closed captioning for this meeting. You should be able to click the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen. Also says live transcript, and you can adjust the size of those captions if that is of help to you. And I want to thank Denise, our closed caption assistant on CART this evening. Next, we have ASL interpretation this evening, and we have both Linda and Sharon with us tonight. Just a few tips for those. I'm going to encourage folks to keep their view settings to gallery mode. That should be the default setting. You can change that by clicking the button that says gallery mode in the top right of your screen. Gallery mode shows all presenters on the screen together, and this ensures that you can see the interpreter as well as the speaker. We've also attempted to spotlight the interpreters, which should keep them on your screen. If the presenter is sharing slides, the view might change, and your screen will primarily display the slides with the presenters and the interpreter's video moving to a small box in the top corner. Oftentimes, the default setting may only show the speaker and not the ASL interpreter. To change this, you can pin the interpreter's video. To do this, click on the ellipses in the top right corner of the interpreter's video and select Pin Video. You might need to repeat this process if we switch interpreters. But we thank all of our interpreters for being with us this evening. Thank you for going to the next slide. So I'd like to introduce some of the MBTA staff who are here with us this evening, and I'll invite them to share their screen and unmute and introduce themselves. Again, I'm Lindsay. I'm on the top of that list.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Povich, and I'm the Director of Fair Policy and Analytics at the MBTA.
Hi there. I'm Arthur Prakash. I'm Manager of Fair Tariff at the MBTA.
How this evening is going to go, I'm going to turn the agenda over in just a minute to Stephen to walk through some slides about our fair media changes that are being proposed and considered currently for our leadership team. We will come back at the end of a short presentation, about 15 or so minutes, to hear comments and questions if you have them, and we'll do our best to answer them in real time to explain the changes that we are proposing to make. If you would like to put a question into the chat, you should be able to see One of the co-hosts says, send questions here. If you send all of your questions to me and I'm also moderating, that's sometimes a little confusing. And so if you don't mind sending all of your questions to, it's actually Arthur, who just introduced himself on the other end of that, who's just collating and feeding them to me as they come so I don't miss anything. Zoom chat boxes can get a little busy. But you can do those at any point while Stephen's talking and we'll be collecting them, or of course at the end. But at the end, we will also have the opportunity certainly for people to raise their hand and share their comments live as well. So with that, I think, Stephen, I will turn it over to you and invite Sylvia to go forward one slide, if you don't mind.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay. And good evening, everyone. I'm now going to go through a number of slides, as Lindsay mentioned, to talk about the new ways to pay for the MBTA that are being introduced through fare transformation. On each of the slides, I'm going to attempt to explain how the system works today and the changes you can expect through fare transformation. The first change, which has a bunch of related policy changes we'll go through, is the actual ways you pay for service. In today's system, riders can use a Charlie card, Charlie ticket, or cash on board to pay their fares. Through fare transformation, we're introducing new payment options to tap when you ride that are shown on the bottom half of this slide. The first is a new Charlie card, a hard plastic card dispensed from fare vending machines and at many different sales locations that's pretty similar to the Charlie cards you're familiar with today. The second is the temporary Charlie. Excellent. The temporary Charlie card, which will be dispensed from streetscape fare vending machines and also sold in bulk, but in most cases can be upgraded for free to a full Charlie card. The next is a mobile Charlie card, which is Charlie cards stored on riders' phones that can be used to tap to ride. And the next is a contactless credit card. So the credit card you carry in your wallet, if it has the contactless logo on it, it can allow you, we will be allowing folks to tap that right on readers to board our services. And then finally, the mobile wallet. So if you store your credit card or debit card in a mobile wallet on a smartphone using Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, you'll be able to tap that mobile wallet directly, again, to board our services. And so, as I mentioned, the introduction of new ways to pay and our new system has a number of policy changes, which we'll walk through now. We can go to the next slide, please. The first change relates to charging for Charlie cards. In today's system, Charlie cards are free, but can be pretty difficult to find. In the future, Charlie cards will be available at fare vending machines and Charlie retailers over the phone and in a mobile app where you can order a physical card or set up a mobile card. Through all these channels, a Charlie card will cost a one-time fee of $3. There's a couple of reasons for this new fee. The first is that it covers the one more trip protection, which I'll get into on the following slides. It also covers the cost to actually procure the cards, which is non-zero to the MBTA. We'd note that reduced fare program participants will be getting cards for free, and we'll also be partnering with local organizations in low-income and minority neighborhoods to ensure that this cost is not a burden to our riders where it otherwise might be. We can go to the next slide, please. As I mentioned, one of the reasons for the card fee is to add one more trip protection. So in today's system, if you show up at a bus stop and you don't have any value left on your Charlie card, you're out of luck. You need to find a place to reload it, or you can't board the service you're looking to ride. In the future, we're implementing one more trip protection. What this means is that you are allowed to board a bus, subway, etc., even if your fare is below the amount you'd need for a full ride, or even as low as $0. I think that the table on the right is a relatively helpful and simple example of how this works. You arrive at the bus stop with $0 on your Charlie card. You tap and board the bus. In today's system, your tap would be rejected and you would not be able to board. In the future, you will be allowed to board and your balance will go down to negative $1.70, the full bus fare. You transfer to the subway and tap again. That transfer costs the incremental 70 cents. So your balance is now negative $2.40. And then when you're exiting the subway, at your destination, you can reload with $5 perhaps, and that would bring your balance to $2.60. At that time, you'd then have enough money on your card to go take another trip on a bus or a subway and continue the process. Next slide, please. The next change is that each rider will need their own card. In today's system, in some circumstances, riders can share a single Charlie card or ticket to travel together. I can tap my card, walk through the fare gate, and then tap it again to allow a friend, relative, visitor from out of town to travel with me. This practice is referred to as passback. In the future, we will not be allowing card sharing for a number of reasons. One, we want to ensure correct pricing of commuter rail trips, where we'll be tapping on and tapping off. We want to assure that there's no accidental charges on contactless credit cards. And also, we want to allow for fare verification when we introduce all door boarding to make sure that each passenger on our modes has proof that they paid. I'd like to note on this topic that we are making it much easier for everyone to get a card with Charlie Cards at many more fare vending machines across our system, with mobile Charlie Cards, and with contactless credit card payment options. And also that children under 11 will still ride for free. As I mentioned on a previous slide, there are a number of groups of folks who will be receiving free cards, including reduced fare riders, and those folks who are purchasing a one-day link pass, which is one of our fare options. We can go to the next slide, please. Oop, back one, please. Thank you. And finally, before we take comment, I'd like to walk through the timeline and next steps for these changes. We presented these on a preliminary basis to the MBTA board in February. We're spending the month of March conducting public outreach, both informally and formally. You're here tonight at the public meeting on March 15th, and we will be conducting a public hearing 1 week from tonight on March 22nd at 6 p.m. Public comment will close at the end of March on the 31st. And we'll spend April collating comments, making any changes based on feedback, and finalizing the equity analysis. Down the road, we'll be asking the full board to approve these changes before they're implemented, and these changes will go into effect when the new fare collection system is implemented on bus and rapid transit. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Lindsay, who will walk everyone through the process for commenting and asking questions.
Thank you, Stephen. If you can go forward to the next slide, please. Great, thank you. Okay, so now we're at the point where we want to hear from you. In order to ask a question or make a comment, you need to virtually raise your hand. You can do this if you're on a computer by pressing Alt and Y, or clicking the raise hand button at the bottom center of your screen. On a mobile device, you're going to tap the raise hand button at the bottom center of your screen and dial *9. Once you raise your hand, you will be added to the queue with others who have raised their hand. And I will call on folks on a first come, first served basis. When it's your turn to speak, I'll say your last name or the last couple digits of your phone number and let you know that I am unmuting you. If you are on a computer or a mobile device, a box will pop up on the center of your screen and you'll need to confirm that you want to be unmuted before you begin speaking. If you're on a phone, an automated recording will let you know that you are unmuted, and you may speak as soon as the recording finishes. Once you're unmuted, everyone in the meeting can hear you. Before asking your question or stating your comment, I would ask you to state your name and any organizational affiliation if you have one. We do ask that people speak slowly this evening. If you have a written statement, that you read it very slowly because people read much faster than they speak, for all the interpreters who are here with us this evening. We ask that you make one comment at a time to ensure everyone has the chance to speak. We don't have too many people here tonight, so I have no doubt we'll get all of your comments in. But certainly if you have an additional question or comment, feel free to raise that hand again. Once you're finished speaking, you will be muted again after that is done. And I will remind people one more time, if you'd prefer to put your comment or question into the chat, you can do that to send questions here. That's labeled, my colleague Arthur labeled as send questions here to help us organize questions that are coming through the chat. I see we already have a couple coming in the chat. I thank you all very much, but I also see we have some raised hands. So I'm gonna unmute the last name White, please. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you, sir, go ahead.
Good. My name is James White. I was the past board member and chairman of the Access Advisory Committee to the MBTA. I just want to clarify a position on the new program. If we have an individual who's mobility impaired and using a mobility device, but has a PCA that actually scans his card, you're saying that everybody has a card, but a PCA would ride for free. In that particular situation, the PCA would not have to have a card, correct?
I'm pausing for a moment to see if possibly Arthur or either Stephen have an answer to that question. It's a great one. Off the top of my head, sir,
Yep.
I don't know. Oh, thank you, Stephen.
I can jump in. Yep. So we will, in certain cases, such as the one you described, be allowing for one passback, and that will be encoded in the new Fair Media to allow support services like you described.
And I'm not sure if I'm muted or not, but in all cases under federal guidelines, a PCA rides for free if they're escorting a person with disability.
Thank you for the clarification. I'm glad you asked it. I'm sorry I didn't know off the top of my head, but I'm also glad to know that the technology is going to support that and should make that easier for everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for having this meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here this evening. And I'm going to go to the next name on my list, last name Butler. You should be able to unmute.
Hi, I'm Kunal Butler. I think for the most part, these changes are good and kind of represent an evolving and developing system. There's kind of 2 points that I have question on almost. The first is on Fair Media itself. Will physical cards as well as digital cards be tied together? So will someone be able to like share a balance between their physical media and their digital media, so they can have like the physical card in their wallet, and if their phone is dead, then they can still use that card, but primarily use their phone or watch or whatever digital form they use. So that's the first one. And the second is, I'm a student and I use a student Charlie card. Will the distinct, like right now, the process of getting a student Charlie card is really cumbersome in a lot of schools because it's very school dependent. One thing that I potentially could suggest is the youth pass and the S card for students being merged into a single card and not requiring 2 different distribution systems. I think the way the M7 is distributed via school still works, but for cards where there's no school affiliation really relevant, I think having a direct system where students can pick up a student Charlie card from their library or their city office would be much more beneficial. And where having two of those Charlie card doesn't really impact anyone. I think that's one, as well as if student Charlie cards will be able to be used in-app on a phone or some kind of digital media as well.
Sure. I'm gonna take a couple of those, and then I'm gonna wait for someone to shake their hand on my MBTA side if I get any of it wrong, because I think I can do most of those. So the first of all, one of the main benefits of the future fair transformation system is that it is an account-based system. So whether you want to use your iPhone, whether you want to use a mobile card, whether you want to, tap your future Apple Watch, those all go back to the same system. So yes, absolutely, they are sort of tied together, so to speak, to your account. In terms of, I'm gonna take back for us the question about how could we streamline different ways to get cards, particularly reduced fare cards, which is what you're talking about, as student cards and youth passes, how to make that easier. Largely, the answer for why it isn't the case today is different funding streams sort of support those, and therefore different people are eligible. But I note the comment for the record. And Stephen, I wonder if there's anything else that you want to say about the comments that were made here before we move on to the next person.
Nothing to add. Appreciate the comments, and we're continuously thinking about ways to make the distribution of cards to folks like students easier. So we appreciate you sharing those thoughts, but nothing else to add.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Absolutely. Okay, I'll do one more with a raised hand, and then I'll make sure we get a couple of the questions that are in the chat right now. And last name Moran. You should be able to unmute.
Hey, Lindsay, Matt Moran here with the Boston Transportation Department. Hope you're doing well.
Hello, Matt.
Quick, I guess kind of more of a technical question. On the prepaid card, I guess the initial benchmark will be $3. Is the expectation that for any fare changes, that would also change? So it would go up at a certain increment? And do you think that increment would be tied to sort of that base level fare change?
Sure. So raising the cost of the card is considered by our Federal Transit Administration, the FTA, our oversight, as part of considering a fare change. So we would have to go through a process very similar to this, with public participation and notice and engagement, board action, equity analyses. We have done that for $3, Matt, as part of our rollout of the system. But certainly in the future, if we wanted to change that, we would have to go through that whole process. Would I expect that we would and any time the MBTA wanted to change fares, that we would also be changing the base price of the card? Not likely, but we would again have to go through all of those strictures that are in place that limit fare changes more generally. They're not at whim. Does that help? Oh, I think you've muted again, and now you can't unmute. Does that answer your question, Matt?
It does, yeah. Thank you very much.
No problem. No problem. Thank you so very much. And let me take a couple questions that are comments that are made in the chat. We have a question, it looks like from a journalist that we may have referred to our media team about if we could answer a few questions about the new fare changes. About how passbacks would work. It looks like they're looking for follow-up. So it looks like we've connected that person for some follow-up for a media outlet. Will seniors be able to use their mobile phone for their Charlie card option, or will they have to have a physical card? So senior cards and reduced fare cards function as an account, is a sort of a special feature within that individual's account. And so they couldn't have the access to the various technological benefits. There still can be a physical card, but if they wanted to put that card on their mobile phone or other ways, that is certainly available to seniors as well. I believe that's the question that last name Weber was asking. If we didn't quite get that right, or I'm answering the wrong question, please feel free to put another comment into the chat. I'm scrolling down. Okay, I have another comment from the chat. It seems like the main reason for this change is to avoid accidental double payments, which is good. But did you guys consider a cooling down from payments and forcing the card to take maybe 2 seconds-ish to read, and so no accidental double payments can be made? I am guessing that this is a question specific to passbacks, and the idea. Certainly one of the rationales on passbacks is about ensuring we don't have inadvertent, double taps, but that is not the only reason to avoid those. Another one is on the future proof of payment system, that everybody needs to have fare media in order to be inspected and make sure that they paid, as we move to a system where everybody doesn't walk by the operator, so to speak, to get on the bus. One way that we want to make sure we keep people honest is having that future option. I don't know if Arthur wants to say anything more about technologically. I know there's been lots of thoughts about how many seconds and microseconds we have to process various things, but is there anything more, Arthur, you might want to add to that?
So I don't think I have anything specific to add. There are a number of limits that are necessary to hold on to, and I think just because we have a lot of different ways of paying, it becomes a lot more likely that people will have a number of different cards that might be accepted for payment. So it becomes much more necessary to be very intentional about tapping once with the correct card.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Arthur. I appreciate it. I'm going to go back to the people who individuals who have their hands raised, and then I'll keep going back to the chat. And the last name, Mason, you should be able to unmute now.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Mason, Community Engagement Manager with the Transportation for Massachusetts Coalition and co-chair of the Transit is Essential Coalition, representing more than 60 organizations advocating for a better MBTA. Bear with me, I will try to keep to the 2 minutes. I just have a couple of quick comments to make.
Can I just encourage you, if you go over your 2 minutes, that's okay if you can slow down for our interpreters.
Sure thing.
Okay.
So first, Transportation for Massachusetts and Transit is Essential Coalition strongly oppose the $3 fee for the new Charlie cards, particularly while simultaneously ending passbacks. Charging this fee for the Charlie card in combination with ending the passback options adds to the inequitable burden on riders who rely most heavily on public transportation due to their livelihood and employment conditions. If the goal of the fair transformation process is to, quote, make, quote, paying for transit easier and more convenient, unquote, enacting these practices works against achieving that goal. These changes will disincentivize new and/or infrequent riders from choosing transit. MBTA ridership will benefit from maintaining and improving access to services, not finding ways to put up new barriers. Until there is a plan to implement a system-wide low-income fare program, please do not add additional costs. Secondly, looking at transportation access in a larger context and how incentives are aligned or not to promote transit. When the state gives away free Easy Pass transponders, but charges for Charlie cards, we are subliminally encouraging residents to drive more than we are to use public transportation. And that public policy should not be implicitly endorsed by approving this fee. And finally, looking into the context of the climate crisis, we hope that, again, to incentivize riders to use public transit and other low to zero carbon modes of transportation. These proposed changes do not support that vision. Thank you for the opportunity to testify and for your consideration. Thanks.
Thank you so very much for joining us tonight. Thank you for explaining all the coalitions that you represent, and I do appreciate all of the sentiments. That will certainly all be noted for the record. Thank you. And let's see, the next person I have with a raised hand has the last name McDonald.
Good evening.
Good evening, we can hear you just fine. Go ahead.
The current, I'm Owen McDonald, I'm with the town of Weymouth. The current process for acquiring a senior Charlie card is to travel to the office at the downtown crossing station and get photographed and get the card at that point. Will that be the same process for the new Charlie card, or will there be differences?
Thank you. There are a bunch of things in the work to try to make it easier for all of our reduced fare riders to enroll in those programs, and we hope to launch many of those in advance of some of the changes we're proposing tonight. We hope near term that we would be launching a online application for seniors where you can do really everything from your phone or your mobile device or your computer and make that process a lot more smooth for riders. That is certainly a major goal of ours. We recently launched launched an online application for Youth Pass, and we're using that as sort of the testing ground, Mr. McDonald, and hope we can roll that out even sooner. We appreciate that going to Downtown Crossing is a heavy burden, and would certainly like to modernize that and not make that a long-term piece. That's not directly tied to some of the changes we're making, but hopefully something we can actually roll out much sooner. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, partially. Just one follow-up. The current Charlie card is a photo card on it. How, if at all, will that be continued?
Yeah, we're piloting systems where we can either get a photo that you could upload yourself, as you can for many things now online, and or trying to think through whether we need photos on cards. Most often the photos are important for us to reduce fraud, where sometimes some person picks up a senior card and uses it. Obviously the reduced fare rate is attractive, but they are not in fact the senior on the card. And so fraud is sort of the flip side of that, but making it easy for the riders is the benefit we're looking for too. So we're trying to explore different options in the future as relate to photos, but definitely trying to get rid of the idea that you need to only go to one place to take a photo. There are other ways to get photographs done these days.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Stephen, were you trying to say something more on that one, or just leaning in for fun? Okay. All right, let's see. And I have, if folks can help me, if there's a comment on the chat. Oh, I see one more. Okay. Thanks for having this meeting. Will new cards be available for purchase with cash, and will cash refills be possible? So yes, new cards will be available through fare vending machines, traditional ones that you're used to seeing in stations, also what we call streetscape fare vending machines, or slightly slimmer profile ones that are at bus stops particularly, are spread throughout our network. But also we're expanding our retailers, and so that you can go into common retailers and that they would have the technology to add value to your Charlie card. So you can use cash at any one of those and do cash refills on either your card, but remember your card is just really a proxy for your account. So you're adding cash to your account, and then you can use that cash and put it actually on you can put your card onto your mobile phone and really be accessing, still using through cash, but still, still ultimately tapping the bus with your phone. And so that sort of is the flow through there. And I thank you for the person who added that question to the chat. I see one more question in the chat. Let's see. How will occasional riders and tourists pay? We've thought a lot about occasional riders, and we are currently offering one-day link. One of our proposals in another meeting we've had recently is for our board to consider one-day link passes. That one-day link passes would be offered. Excuse me, I just misspoke. One-day link passes would be offered without having to pay a fee, thinking that if an individual comes to the city of Boston and they want to go to the aquarium and then the art museum, and they're going to make multiple trips, we want to make that one-day link pass work for them, that they could take multiple trips and that they wouldn't have to pay the $3 base rate. And that in addition, that if one does want to use a contactless credit card or credit card on the system, there is no $3 fee there. You don't have the benefits of one more trip protection, as Stephen mentioned, but you can pay with your card. As many of you may have seen, the little double C that now exists a lot of times when you go into retailers, you'll be able to use that on a bus or a subway, and that does not have a $3 fee. So that seems like another potential way to mitigate any potential burdens for visitors to the city of Boston. Okay, let me go back to the people on the list, and let's see, I have the last name, Butler. You should be able to unmute now.
Hi, sorry, there's a couple other things that have come up as questions. In terms of physical differences between a Charlie card versus a Charlie ticket, are they the same thing just without the extra protection? One fare protection or one use protection, or how does that exactly distinguish itself?
Sure. And if we can go back in the slides, Sylvia, I think it's maybe slide 4 or 5 that had the 5 different options across the top. And Stephen, I'm going to invite you to share the difference between the new Charlie card and the temporary Charlie card, which is maybe getting a little muddled with Charlie tickets, a thing from today. But thanks for asking the question. Let's see if we can clear that up.
Yeah, thank you. So in today's system, as you mentioned, we have Charlie cards and Charlie tickets, and the Charlie tickets are sort of a thinner plastic or paper ticket, whereas a Charlie card is hard plastic. In the new system, there will be Charlie cards and temporary Charlie cards. There will not be Charlie tickets as you know them today. The temporary Charlie card is distinct from the full hard plastic Charlie card, only in that it will be dispensed from streetscape fair vending machines, and that in some cases it will be sold in bulk for things like conferences. In the case where it's dispensed from a streetscape fair vending machine, it's still a thinner plastic, flimsier card that is not designed to last as long as a standard new Charlie card. But it will have basically the same functionality. Folks will be expected to upgrade those for free to a sort of standard Charlie card at all the locations where those are sold, whether that's a station fair vending machine or similar. And that's just because those cards will last longer. And so we expect with the card charge, people will want to hang on to the Charlie cards, either by moving it from the temporary Charlie card to a hard plastic card that's on the far left of your screen, or to a mobile Charlie card in the app that's in the middle of your screen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. I think one thing that might be worth exploring is like a phrasing difference of almost like phrasing one as Charlie cards with like fair protection, and then another just being like a temporary Charlie card. That might clear up some of the confusion or fear of almost being charged an extra fee with new cards. One other thing is I have a document with some feedback from other students about the experience using student Charlie cards. Is there anywhere I can send that so that it can be kind of?
Yep, absolutely. We'll drop the email into the chat. I think we have it on our last slide in this deck too. And so definitely you can send comments to us. We're happy to take them. Thank you so very much for the comments and the questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's see. And if I'm going to go to the next person on my list, if I can unmute the last name, is it Reiber? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is John Reiber, and I'm wondering, with the new Charlie card and the one more trip protection, will riders be able to swipe more than once with a negative balance or a zero balance?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And Sylvia, go forward if you don't mind, another 2 slides that had the one more trip protection. One more, there we go. Stephen, do you want to try one more time on the explanation? I thought it was helpful, but maybe we can explain each swipe is not equal, or each tap is not equal. So we can try to provide some clarity there. Thanks.
Yep, it's definitely a bit confusing. So let me try and explain. You'll be able to board service with a low or zero balance on your card, even if that is below the fare for the service you're riding.
Mm-hmm.
So take a bus, for example, which costs $1.70. You'll be able to tap onto a bus with a value on your card of between $0 and $1.70. If that's your whole trip and your balance goes down to say negative $1.70, if you want to start a new trip, you will not be able to tap your card and enter a fare gate or board a bus. That tap will be rejected.
Okay.
However, the example that's on this page is for continuing your trip onto another mode through a transfer. And our transfers in many cases cost only the difference in fares. So the difference between the subway fare and the bus fare is 70 cents. And so that transfer costs an incremental 70 cents. And so you could have a negative balance and go slightly more negative by continuing the same trip with a transfer. You won't be allowed with a negative balance to start a new trip. And so this example is boarding a bus with a balance of 0, transferring, which brings a balance slightly more negative, and then ending your trip, at which time you'll have to refill. In a case with no transfer, you'd still have to refill at negative $1.70. The limit for boarding and starting a new trip is $0. I know it's a little confusing with how much transfers cost and how much the original trip costs, but hopefully that clarifies. No trip can begin with a balance below $0, but a trip could be continued to the extent it's just a sort of small dollar transfer.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. Let's see. Last name Wunsch. I'm unmuting you.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I'm Stefan Wunsch. I'm the co-chair of the MBTA's Rider Oversight Committee. I noted in the presentation materials that didn't show tonight, but you had showed to the board at the February 24th meeting that it's still up in the air whether or not contactless credit cards and mobile wallets will be supported for monthly or weekly passes. The first question about that is, what do you think is the best case, worst case time frame for finding out whether passes can be stored on contactless credit cards or mobile device wallets?
I am hesitant, Mr. Wunsch, to give you a timeline there because we're in conversations with various credit card providers and trying to understand overarching rules around credit card transactions. It flies in the face of credit card use to put things like passes on them. You use a credit card to pay for a transaction, and so paying for future transactions and then tapping is just not quite how that system is made. So it would be encouraging people in the, clearly, if we're still working on this in the shorter term, that they can have a mobile Charlie card that's tied to their credit card, and that would certainly hold the pass functionality, and then just be in the background charging the credit card for it. That would be the sort of the near-term solution. I don't want to promise because I'm really not sure. We have to keep those conversation notes open.
No problem. No, I think having the mobile Charlie card on your mobile device is a completely fine option. I was just wondering about that. But then, as you said,
Can I just add one more thing? We're not alone in this one. Other peer transit agencies are struggling with this piece and working with credit cards. So we're sort of amongst the universe. I think Transit's trying to figure out how to navigate this new piece of sort of technology and also credit card functionality and sort of what are the industry standards going forward. So we're on it, and more to come.
Okay, great. Well, then the follow-up on that is, given that a lot of people like myself would probably want to have a new Charlie card as well as the mobile Charlie card in case my phone dies or in case I lose the new Charlie card. Would that be then a total of $6 to procure them, or just $3 to set it up and everything, and I'd still have the benefit of both tappable devices?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say my team's probably going to get upset because whenever I try to sort of make analogies, sometimes they don't work perfectly, but you're sort of buying an account with us. People keep talking about buying the card, but the card can be this non-physical thing on your phone if that's what you want it to be, and that is sort of the account that we think about as the card, and certainly covering the physical cost of the card is one piece of that, and is common for people, and we want to keep that functionality. But you would not pay twice; you would pay once for your account.
Very good. Okay, and then my final question about all of that is, if I wanted to be really safe, theoretically, I could buy multiple new Charlie cards. I could buy the mobile Charlie card, and then I could have 2 or 3 new Charlie cards. Would that be allowed? And if so, how would you prevent fraud if I had a pass on, say, 2 or 3 new Charlie cards?
So I'm going to take a run at this, and then I'm going to invite Arthur to unmute and help me make sure I didn't mess up all of the rules, because he spends lots of time on this. And so you're buying, we're saying you're buying multiple cards. You're kind of buying into the account-based system, and you can have, as I said, someone can use their phone, use their watch, use their all sorts of different ways to sort of tap. And every time you're doing that, the system is going back to our system integrator, checking and making sure, and then pulling from the appropriate product that you have. So you have a pass sort of stored in the stratosphere here in future land, and then it's pulling down off of that. It can pull from multiple different devices or the way we think about it, media that we provide to you, but you don't actually have to have multiple passes in order to use each one of those different media. Arthur?
Oh, yeah. Understood. Yeah, no, I'm wondering if I did decide to procure multiple devices that were all on the same account, what prevents me from handing one to a spouse, family member, neighbor, or selling one, and then somebody could be riding on my monthly pass. I'm assuming there'd be some kind of a fraud detection in the system.
Go for it, Arthur.
So
Sorry, I didn't
I want
follow.
to hit a couple points here. Lindsay's definitely on the right track. I just wanted to kind of solidify the concept of an account. So an account that that you have goes with one card or one type of media. Within that, there's an exception in that you can have a credit card that switches back and forth between a physical credit card and the instance of that credit card that's loaded into your mobile wallet, or maybe even that instance of that credit card that's loaded onto your watch. So that would mean that you have 3 different instances of the same credential or the same kind of account. And so what you're saying there is, yes, that is a way to kind of have a backup to travel, but there are limitations that we don't let you just switch back and forth between them willy-nilly. So we do monitor for the number of times that you switch back and forth. If you do that too much, you'd have to call our call center, for example, that sort of thing. So there's, we're paying attention to that. And so that's within one account. Another thing is if you had 2 different accounts, so you bought 2 different Charlie cards, if they were like one was physical, one was a mobile Charlie card, for example, you would have been paying $3 for one account and $3 for the second account. And so those are separate accounts in the system. They could both be traveling at the same time, have overlapping trips. That's completely fine because they have different accounts and they got set up separately. I want to explain that there is the ability, if you have different people who are in the same family, this is especially intended for families with children, that you have the ability to transfer some of your transit value or a pass between one account and another. So it would basically say, oh, look, I have this pass. It's on my mobile Charlie card right now. My phone died. I really want it to be on my physical Charlie card. So the reason I'm mentioning this is another way that sharing can happen. But again, it's something that we monitor. If it happens too much, too frequently, then that'll be once again something that you need to call our contact center to be able to do more times than might be reasonable.
So it sounds like, in a really fraudulent situation, if somebody tapped on at Wonderland and then 20 minutes later tapped on commuter rail in Worcester, that would send up some red flag somewhere in the system saying,
Right. Regardless of if you just had one card ever, if something like that showed up, that's something that we monitored for as well. And that would throw up a flag.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. Great job tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the positivity. I think we have a couple questions that are coming in through the chat. I don't currently see any raised hands. Sylvia, do you mind going forward to the slide that just reminds people how to raise their hand while I look? So it looks as though a question we have in the chat. Sorry if this was already addressed, but if purchasing a Charlie card online to be mailed to you, would there potentially be additional costs or fees associated with that purchase as opposed to purchasing a card in person? I don't know, Stephen, if you know that off the top of your head. Arthur, do you have an answer to that question if people were going to get a card to be mailed to them?
So the answer there is that there's no additional charge envisioned. So that would be basically part of the same fee.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. Next question I see in the chat is fare capping being considered so people do not need to purchase a monthly or weekly pass, but just see if the amount of use gets up to the amount of a weekly or monthly pass? So fare capping is a sort of term of art in transit agencies, the idea being that if people don't have enough money at the beginning of a month, let's say, to buy a monthly pass, but their usage is such that they get up to the price of a monthly, that it is capped and they would never be charged more than that. We are watching experiments happening right now in New York Transit. MTA is beginning a program with a fare capping program. The short answer is fare capping is something that would be technologically possible for us in this future system. It is not something that right now we're proposing to the board because we frankly haven't done enough research on it and decided if it makes sense for the MBTA. So we're going to keep monitoring that situation and possibly more to come. A bigger piece of work for us as we wait for all of the rollout of some of these technological changes is to do a more robust and comprehensive fare policy review. There's technological opportunities that exist in the new system that just don't exist today. So there are many things we haven't really studied or modeled out because we just couldn't currently do it on the technology we have, and fare capping it fits into some of that. So stay tuned, please. Part of the flexibility we hope to have, now we have to decide how to use it. I have another question in the chat, okay, this was a follow-up from the question that Mr. Wunsch was just asking. Do you have to manually switch back and forth, or can you use your mobile card one day and your physical card another, and so on, without getting flagged? Oftentimes, I think there's pieces of this we're still trying to work out, but switching back and forth generally is going to involve logging into your account, either on the website or your mobile app, or for those who need to, calling into the MBTA. Okay, and I'm going to ask folks here if I have, okay, I'm sorry, I missed a question on the list. There's a comment question also from the chat. Do these new Charlie cards expire? And also any fee using contactless credit cards such as Apple Pay. Expiration times are much longer than our current system. Even temporary Charlie cards in the future will last longer than 5 years. And so the technology should be good for significantly longer. And there is not a fee for using any of our third-party contactless payment options. And folks on the team, if you can ping me if I've missed anything else in the chat, let me know. But I do see we have another hand raised. And Mr. DeCiccio, how'd I do there? I'm unmuting you. You should be able to unmute now.
Thank you. Actually, one of my questions, it was probably at the beginning and it got missed, so I just wanted to chat on it.
Thank you.
One of the questions I had, when this program does get implemented, if somebody loses their physical Charlie card, is it going to be easy to replace? And will there be any additional costs for a new card and any costs for deactivation of the old card?
Thank you very much for the question. Arthur, can I ask you to handle that one when people lose their Charlie card? It happens a lot, so we pay attention to that issue. What we're currently thinking about helping people who have lost their cards.
Sure. So I want to start off by saying that there's a couple different cases where you might need to replace a card. And if we can establish that a card is defective, then we will be replacing that for free in all circumstances. In general, the $3 fee is what is charged for a new card. We are working to, what I will say is, by the time that most cards are replaced, we will be able to replace them for a $1.50 fee. There may be a period of time when we are rolling out the new software where we may be limited in our ability to charge exactly that fee. But that is the policy, and the goal is to charge $1.50 for replacements.
Hoping not to burden people too much as best we can, and also hoping that they kind of keep their Charlie card a little close. And don't treat them like you do today. When you walk in the subway now, you often see cards kind of littered all over the ground. Trying to hopefully get rid of some of that. And I'm sorry we missed your question earlier. I don't see any other hands raised, and so I'm just going to remind people to raise their hand. They're either going to click the hands raised button on the bottom of their screen, or you can, if you're on a phone, you can dial *9. And I'm just wondering, Stephen, I see your camera is still on. Do you see any other questions that I haven't answered in the chat or haven't read aloud yet?
I do not.
Seeing any. Okay. This is a very timely group. We had hoped to keep this to an hour, and we're at exactly 7 o'clock with no more comments. If you can go forward, Sylvia, one more slide. I do just want to make sure somebody had asked about how to submit anything in writing to us. And so our public engagement email, publicengagement@mbta.com, is always available for ways to let the team know what you're thinking, and it is monitored by a whole group of community engagement specialists. And so please feel free, if you have other written comments, some of you read some things aloud, if you want to also submit them in case we didn't transcribe them perfectly, you're more than welcome to. I understand someone wanted to share it with other students. Please also feel free to use that to give your any comments to the MBTA. But given that you have all spent an hour of your life with us, and I don't see any more raised hands, I think at this point, what I'd like to particularly do is thank our many interpreters and individuals trying to make this meeting accessible, both our ASL interpreters. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you to our Spanish language interpreters. We have both Laura and Juliana with us, and Denise for working for providing CART services or transcription services. I thank you all for being with us. We will be taking all these comments in terms of next steps, pulling them all together and making sure that our board has a complete understanding of what the public is telling us of their interest in these changes before being asked to make any vote. Stephen, am I missing something?
Sorry, no, we just had a couple late breaking comments in the chat, which I
Here
can
I
just
am
go
ready
through.
to, yeah, got it.
No.
Oh, I see them. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoops, we missed your question. I'm sorry, Mr. Chase. Not sure if you missed my question. With the future inclusion of tap-on, tap-off commuter rail fares, will Charlie card readers be installed at stations? Stephen, were you ready with a reply on that one?
That one's easy. The answer is yes.
Yeah, and well, so you will see a whole different schema for paying for commuter rail coming to a commuter rail station near you. Yes, for distance-based fares. And another one, we have a quick question. Is it possible for me to reload a mobile Charlie card with cash, or would I need a physical card? And so yes, we would. So you can load cash onto your account through fare vending machines or at retailers, and then that cash is sort of on your account, which you can then access through your mobile Charlie card. So thank you very, very much for the comment, and no apologies needed for coming in late. You're in and we have them. So I want to thank everybody again for being with us tonight, and I really appreciate your joining us. And we will be holding another one of these public meetings next Tuesday evening. If you have individuals you think who would like to be here, we welcome your sharing this information with them. But thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Good night.